What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and Chill, where I, Graham, G.S. and Matthews, break down all the original content I watch on the WWE Network. And today we're talking the latest episode of WWE Untold, covering the story of AJ Styles' 2016 Royal Rumble debut. Had a chance to watch this early before I talked to AJ Styles himself for an exclusive interview for both here on the channel and on Bleacher Report. So before you go any further, I'm putting this up as soon as the episode is released on the WWE Network. But be sure to check out the doc itself, obviously, and my interview with AJ, not only on Bleacher Report in article form, but if you want to listen to it, the audio went up on Friday here on the channel. So you're going to want to check it out. You're going to want to subscribe for more exclusive interviews. Literally, in 2021 alone, we've had interviews go up with Fandango, AJ Styles, Apollo Crews, Keith Lee, and Stone Cold Steve Austin. The best of Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and the WWE Hall of Fame. Literally in the span of 2 weeks. So you're going to want to subscribe if you haven't already. I'd appreciate it. But yeah, this was really good. So it clocks in at around 33 minutes. There may have been things about the doc that were changed since I saw it a couple days ago. I don't think there was. So I'm just kind of going off what I saw here. But I was really looking forward to this. Obviously, as a huge AJ fan, I enjoyed the special. And I love the moment itself. The moment itself, it is absolutely wild to believe. And I told AJ this. He said this himself when we talked earlier this week. That it does not feel like it's been 5 years since the AJ Styles Royal Rumble debut. We all remember when they broke the news on WWE.com that he, Shinsuke Nakamura, Doc Gallows, and Carl Anderson might be WWE bound in early 2016 on January 4th. I remember that day specifically, or January 5th maybe. I think it was the day after Wrestle Kingdom. They broke the news that they might be headed to the company, and at that point I think they were still, not AJ, but I think Anderson and at least Nakamura were already on their way out. They were still under contract, but they were there already. They were like any other company, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. They had not left, so that was a little weird. But yeah, we were all so hyped, and then the moment arrived. He arrived in the Rumble. It's been amazing. It's been a crazy journey for AJ in WWE. To think he's still here 5 years later, and not only that, but a former Intercontinental Champion, 2 or 3 time United States Champion. I think 3 time. Headline WrestleMania last year with the fucking Undertaker. 2-time WWE Champion, with one of those reigns being a year long, having beaten AJ Styles clean twice in the middle of the ring, having beaten Shane McMahon and Randy Orton at WrestleMania, giving us that Nakamura dream match at WrestleMania 34. It's crazy. It's crazy. So, yeah, I thought this was really good stuff. When the documentary first starts, he discusses what the Phenomenal One is all about, where the nickname comes from, and how it really can't be explained. It's really just something that you see and you're like, wow, that's purely just phenomenal. So his real name is Alan Jones. That's what AJ stands for. His first memory of wrestling was in Georgia Championship Wrestling while he was growing up. Obviously, being from Georgia, that's what he kind of grew up on. He always loved competition. He always played sports. I think he played football. He definitely played baseball, among other things. And he enjoyed his dad watching him and cheering him on from the stands. He always loved that, which was cool. But his dad was an alcoholic, and how he took his frustrations out both on AJ's mom, his brothers and sisters. I forgot how many siblings he said he had, but he was the best dad in the world when he wasn't drinking. But when he was drinking, kind of an asshole. But he was a great father otherwise, AJ said. He met his wife in high school. He doesn't really go into much more detail than that, but he met his wife in high school. So they are high school sweethearts, which is cool. And he said he got athletic really, really quickly. I don't know if it was while he was with her and he was on the cheerleading team or doing something. I don't know. He was pole vaulting or something like that in high school, where he just gave some shit a try and he got really athletic and really agile and shit really, really quickly. So he went to college, didn't like college. And when he was home, some of his friends had actual jobs and shit, and they wanted to be wrestlers. So he said, why the fuck not? Let's give it a shot. Let's go try out. And he ended up really, really liking it. He went to a place right near him where they lived. They trained at a place near where they lived. He describes taking his very first bump and what that was like, and how when he first started wrestling, everyone called him AJ. Not Alan, but AJ. So that's where the AJ came from, and that's why it stuck. So I guess he teamed with a guy named Steele in his first match. Steele something, AJ Steele, I don't fucking know. So they wanted to give these guys a name that sounded cool, so Steele and Styles. So that's where the Styles came from. I never knew that. I thought that was really cool. So they teamed up in his first match. I think it was his first match, and they wanted to name the team Styles and Steel, so that's where Styles came from. Didn't like it at first. He actually really thought the spelling was stupid. He did not like the name at all, but it obviously grew on him, and it stuck. He went to Baltimore for a WCW dark match, and he got signed with in a week or two, he said, which was crazy. He did a lot of extra work for him first. He is seen in a lot of clips on Nitros, like a security guard and shit like that. And when he first got signed, he was getting paid $750 a week, which is a lot of money, especially for back then, a fucking week. If you were an enhancement guy, that's crazy. But there was some talk at the time that WCW was going to close. No one really took it seriously until it actually happened. So we got a call from John Laurinaitis, who was involved in the talent relations over in WWE at that point, who told AJ, hey, WWE's not going to be picking up your contract. Now that, they obviously signed all the WCW guys, or most of them, he found out WWE's not picking up his contract. But he just said he wanted the chance. He wanted the chance to show that he could prove that he belonged there. He wanted the chance to prove what he was worth. So we did an audition for them, and we see that audition tape here, which was really funny. I've seen it somewhere else before. Maybe it's 365, I don't know. They've done stuff like this before with AJ. They showed his audition tape and how awkward it was. He's never been a great talker, but especially back then. He's a much better talker now. He said that his dark matches were all about spots and really not so much about story. He just really wanted to go out there at that point and do some crazy shit to get people to notice him. He said if he watched those matches back now, he would fucking hate them. Triple H actually told him backstage, which is funny because he would find out later on in the doc that it was actually Triple H that told him that actually called him about coming to WWE. Back in 2001 rather, when he was doing all this dark match shit in WWE, Triple H pulled him aside and said, hey, just slow down out there. And I guess AJ said something back and he wishes he didn't. He thought it was really awkward. I guess he's like, yeah, but in that situation with a guy like Triple H, you don't yeah, but him. You just fucking listen to what he has to say, agree, and then move along. You don't yeah, but a guy like Triple H, especially at that point when you're a nobody. So they show footage of AJ working the Hurricane on WWF Metal. It wasn't Heat, but it was something similar to Heat. Heat was already also going on at that point. And Jim Ross told him after the fact that he thought he had a good match. And that gave him a nice confidence boost. So we found out soon after that they would have signed him to a developmental deal. But if he did sign a developmental deal, it meant that he would have to move over to Cincinnati, Ohio. And he couldn't do that to his wife. He wanted to allow his wife to chase her dreams. And I think they already had kids at that point. They had kids really young, I believe. So he was like, I can't do that. I can't do that. So he felt sorry for himself for a week. And then he remembers meeting Samoa Joe. They met in Northern California, and they've been friends ever since. And he says that, he talks like people on the road. They talk about how people on the road, they're like brothers, not biologically, but like they're brothers by what they do and how much they love it. And their friendship stemmed from loving what they do as being professional wrestlers. So he didn't take, AJ said. So they actually talk about TNA. And they have to. I mean, how the fuck do you do a documentary about AJ Styles and cover his upbringing and start in the business without mentioning TNA? You have to. And they did, which was great. And they show footage and photos and stuff like that. So AJ said he did not take TNA seriously at first. He thought it might go under, honestly, from the beginning. I think they all did, everyone involved in it. And then he ended up staying there for 11 years. And while he was there, he found out who he was as a performer, as a man. And they fast forward. They don't talk a lot about his TNA career, but he talks about how he had to understand his worth. And he did understand his worth at that point when his contract came due in 2013. It was supposed to end in August, actually. So it was supposed to end in August of 2013. They extended it through the end of the year, past Bound for Glory when he became TNA champion. And what they offered him was less than what they offered or what he was already making. I think he wanted a raise. And not only did they not give him a raise, they gave him less what he was already making. And it was significantly less, too. He's gone on in other interviews and said that. And it just didn't make sense to him. As a top guy, former multi-time world champion, it made absolutely no sense. And he was like, oh, am I supposed to stay here and take less money? No way. And I guess TNA thought he was going to stay. But he's like, listen, I got 3 boys. I got a family to feed. I left a guaranteed contract on the table in leaving TNA. But I knew I had to go out and prove myself by working for all these other promotions. So they talk about New Japan and how it really helped to make a star. It really helped to make him a star. And he was going in there with great stories and stuff like that. He was a star almost immediately from arriving in New Japan. You know, it was a long trip, though. It would take him 14 hours to get there in fucking coach. He wasn't taking, like, first class by any means. It was 14 hours to get there. But it was worth the travel for that experience. For that experience of being in Japan for 2 years, it was well worth it. Well worth all the travel and the bumps and the bruises and whatever. So Finn Balor also appears in this doc. We hear a lot from Samoa Joe, which was cool. We hear a lot from Finn Balor, too. And Balor's last day in New Japan was AJ's first. So basically, they had just missed, like literally just missed each other. But AJ talks about how winning the Iwgp Heavyweight Championship was a huge milestone for him. The last American to hold it before him, I believe, was, or someone not from Japan, was Brock Lesnar back in 2005. So this is when they start talking about the Royal Rumble stuff. And I was honestly a little surprised they don't go into more detail about the Royal Rumble stuff and how majority... This is really like a condensed WWE 24 in like a 33-minute version. So AJ found out from Joe that Nakamura might be leaving New Japan. I thought Styles found that out himself. He actually found out from Joe, which was funny because Joe was already in WWE. Joe wanted both of these guys in WWE. I mean, he got the chance to work with both guys over the years, which is really fucking cool. And, you know, they knew it was going to be a huge hit. I mean, they knew it just because AJ and Nakamura were two of their biggest stars at that point. They were just in a featured match at Wrestle Kingdom 10 over the Intercontinental Championship. So it was heavily speculated that Styles was coming in, and they put out the article on WWE.com, and everyone was like, oh shit, is he going to WWE? So AJ asked Terry Taylor about it, who's obviously really close to Triple H. So Taylor talked to Triple H. Triple H called AJ, and it was on the night of a Ring of Honor show, AJ said. He called him when he was in his hotel room the night of a Ring of Honor show, so probably maybe Final Battle or soon after, I'm not sure. And they were on the phone for a while, had a great conversation. He said that his wife, AJ's wife, wanted a certain amount. I mean, he didn't say that to Triple H, but AJ said that his wife was hoping for a certain amount if he did go there, and what it would exactly it would entail. And Styles said, listen, that sealed the deal for me. I'm in. I'm on my way in. This is going to happen, blah, blah, blah. They talk about how the Royal Rumble is always exciting and never know who's going to show up, and Styles admits that he didn't know he was going to be in the Rumble until a week before. We were all fantasy booking AJ in the Rumble as soon as it was announced that AJ might be coming to WWE in early January. He did not find out until a week in advance that he was going to be in the Royal Rumble itself. And they tell this great story about how Samoa Joe actually picked up AJ from the airport in Tampa, because that's where Joe lived at the time, which I thought was just amazing. And AJ said in our interview that no one else knew about it ahead of time. Just Joe. And maybe a few other people, but very few else. Literally nobody else. Obviously Joe did, but no one else. So he joked to Triple H, like, either ahead of time or the day of the pay-per-view that he'd be number 2. Wouldn't it be funny if I was number 2 in the Rumble? And then Triple H said, well, you're going to be number 3. And he's like, holy shit. So he said he was scared ahead of time, and he prayed that at least one person would remember him. Because it had been a couple years. Obviously, he was in Japan for a while, but, you know, he wasn't on the TNA scene for the last 3 years, or 2 years at that point. He had not been in TNA for a while. How many people actually watched TNA? You know, it was a tough thing. But when he went out there and got that reaction, it seemed like everybody fucking knew who AJ Styles was. He had a lot of emotions. Balor credits AJ for paving the way for him. I mean, Balor was already in the company at that point. But AJ really paved the way for him in terms of like what he accomplished and everything else and coming to the main roster and shit like that. And he said the Rumble is all about the waiting game. You're in the Rumble match for a while. It's all about who's coming out and whatever, and really lasting a long time. He lasted, I think, over half an hour, which was really impressive. And he didn't know if he could bounce off the ropes. This was his first time in a WWE ring. So he didn't know if he could bounce off the ropes and all this other shit. And he actually said, as weird as this sounds, he was happy when it was over, because he could just really just take in the moment and be like, wow, that was fucking awesome, you know? Because he was in that ring for a long time. And he sat back and he goes, wow, that was great. And then obviously they show all the success he's had since then, about him being WWE Champion within a year. He became WWE Champion in his rookie year, beat John Cena twice on pay-per-view, beat Dean Ambrose on pay-per-view, actually beat John Cena 3 times, including at No Mercy in that triple threat. It wasn't a singles match, but it was still, you know, a win is a win over John Cena. So yeah, he said that his priorities have always been on his family, and Samoa Joe praises him as the ultimate family man. And AJ says he hates the words, I can't, because he's going to prove that he can. And he likes to earn things, and he wants to put that same mindset into his kids. He had to earn his way to WWE, not just be given it. And he said anything is attainable if you're willing to work for it. And it took him 17 years to get to WWE, but it was well worth the journey, and he would do it all over again. And that's always going to be a part of him, that Royal Rumble debut back in 2016. Very good stuff here. Nothing groundbreaking, but just reliving the moment. Again, I'm probably going to enjoy this more than most, just in being a big AJ fan. I thought this was fucking great, so definitely check it out right now on WWE Network. It's only 33 minutes long. You really have no excuse to not watch it, so check it out. You'll enjoy it, especially as we approach the Royal Rumble match itself and the pay-per-view coming up next weekend. Or not next weekend, it's in 2 weeks. It's a late Rumble this year on the 31st. But yeah, that's it, guys. So be sure to check out the AJ Styles Royal Rumble debut episode of WWE Untold, and check out my exclusive interview with the Phenomenal One himself, both on Bleacher Report in article form and right here on the channel from Friday in audio form. Fucking great conversation with one of the best to ever do it and one of my favorites of all time. So check those out. I would greatly appreciate it. Be sure to like this video, drop a comment, share the video, subscribe to the channel for daily content, including hitting that bell button to be notified every time a new video goes up. You never know whose exclusive interview might be uploaded here to the channel. I still have so many I did in 2020 that have yet to be uploaded in audio form up here, so that includes the Bayley one. The Triple H one is already up here. There was a shit ton I did over the summer that never actually made the YouTube channel. The Bayley being one, and then the Bayley one being chief among them, but did one with Dolph Ziggler. That one's got to be uploaded at some point. David Arquette, Q from Impractical Jokers. The list goes on and on and on. James Storm as well. Some great interviews there. So those will all be uploaded at some point. But going forward, though, again, in 2021 alone, from an audio standpoint, we've already got interviews up with Fandango, Apollo Crews, Keith Lee, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and AJ Styles in 2021 already. And we're only fucking 17 days in. So, yeah, check it out right now here on the channel, all those exclusive interviews. Have a great one, guys. I'm Graham G. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.